Obviously a good win, especially with how we did it. I thought we were very cued in on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought special teams, and we had a lot of situations that came up during the ball game from a special team standpoint, and I thought we did okay. We obviously the one fake punt, which was a great call on Coach Satterfield's part, and we didn't execute it very well, stopping it right there. That was the one that kind of broke serve on special teams. But I thought overall, played very well. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we got to get corrected to continue moving forward. But that was the first step in our two-part process, what we wanted to do to end the season. And we talked a lot about taking care of business last week to give us a chance to start a new streak and be 2-0, and that's our focus leading into this week against SEMO, a team that we haven't matched up very well against in the past. We've struggled with in the past couple of meetings. It always seems like it's a game that comes down to the wire, close scoring games and things of that nature. And then obviously we've got to get up and go over there and take a trip on game day. So there's a lot of things that go into the equation getting ready for this week, and we've got to make sure that we're up for the challenge, and we will be. One thing about these players that I've got, they're always up for any type of challenge that we put on them. So very excited to see how we go about our work week.
Tell us about the running game, because it wasn't just Pinnock; it was basically anybody that you ran. They just had a big day.
Yeah, well, we simplified, to be perfectly honest with you. We only ran a handful of run plays. We didn't run a lot of extravagant, concepts. It was just basically zone and a little bit of power, and we tried to pick the tempo up a little bit, and I think that helped us. You know me, I'm a tempo guy, and we haven't really done that a whole lot this year. Up until last week, and I really tried to pick up the tempo a little bit in the play calls, and I think that helped an awful lot with the run game. And then, I thought that we just kind of created that through the week. When you're as simple as we were, you don't give those guys any cop-outs. When you start having all these different concepts, what happens is you start to create some cop-outs with your kids and say, hey, don't worry, we won't run that in that look, we'll call this. We won't run that in that look, we'll call this. And they get used to it. So what happens is they just go, well, that probably wasn't a good look. We should call this other play. And I didn't give them those cop-outs. I said, look, this is what we're going to do. However they line up, you got to block it. You got to figure out a way to at least get us 4 yards. And I thought they did a really nice job answering that challenge.
What can you say about Jordan Gandy's game? I know I wasn't there personally to see it. Keeping up with his numbers, it seemed like it was a big breakout moment for him. Is this the kind of defense in SEMO that he can do this again?
I don't know. We're going to try. I got one more week with him. So it's like I was just in an offensive staff, and I told him, I said, worst thing that could happen is we come into the locker room after the last game of the season, and all of our playmakers, the guys who we consider playmakers, are sitting there and they're barely sweating and barely breathing. I want those guys with their tongues hanging out and their jerseys dirty. You know what I mean? So we're going to try to figure out as many ways to get the ball to those guys, to Gandy and to some of these other guys who've kind of stepped up and made some big plays for us, which that's the life of offense right there. You always try to find the guys who produce for you and get those guys the ball as many times as possible, and do it as many different ways as possible so that somebody can't just cover them up, and that's going to be the challenge this week. Is they've got a corner. Y'all know me, I don't know names, but I know numbers. Number 4, who's had a lot of buzz. A lot of the NFL scouts who come by here to look at D. Wade, they've also talked about him, and that'll be quite a challenge for us, is trying to get Gandy in open space against a guy like that, because I would imagine they'll probably play him. They'll probably try to travel that guy all over the field and stay with Gandy the whole night, and we can't allow them to do that.
From a record standpoint, SEMO looks a lot like you guys. I know a lot of these tight, close ball games haven't come out on the other end. Lamont seems to think that SEMO is going to come out with a lot of fight, a lot of different tricks, want to close out their season the right way. How do you counter that, knowing that type of expectation is coming at King?
They will. I mean, that's the thing is you get your players to understand that, and you get your staff to understand that this is this is the last game. So there's no. It's like what is it, the Water Boy, when the announcer is announcing the game and he goes, the last game. There's no sense holding anything back, and he keeps saying that the whole game. I think you go into these type of games like that where there's no sense in holding anything back, and it's a lot like last week, when you're 4th and 6 in your own territory in the first quarter, and you fake a punt. I just kind of tipped my cap to Satterfield and said, "Hey, buddy, you got me on that one, man." And those are the type of games that you're going to play in when you have teams like this. The last 2 weeks, the last week of the season, you've done things all season. Every week you've got little nuances, whether it's a fake punt, whether it's a special on offense that you haven't pulled out, whether it's a special blitz on defense that you really haven't felt comfortable with. You have all of these things that you've worked over and over and over and over again, and you've never had a chance to call it in a game. And usually coaches are, it's human nature. You get kind of an itchy trigger finger, and you want to call those calls. You want to finally cross them off your call sheet and say, man, we worked it. It either worked or it didn't. And so you just have to go into the game being ready for that.